This is what WanVace can do. It's currently the most powerful AI video generator that you can use offline, making it the most powerful open source AI video model. In case you haven't realized by now, Vace is built on top of the already very popular model WAN. But did you know you can also use it with LTS, allowing it to hold a candle to some of the major AI video generators out there like Kling, Sora, and Runway. It also has the benefit of being one of the most uncensored AI video models, meaning you can do all kinds of funny, crazy, and spicy things. Like this video of my AI influencer Lydia cutting up some hot, spicy red peppers. You guys know what I'm talking about. If you want to see more content of good old Lydia, link down in the description. Now, Vace has been out for a little while with a 1.3 billion parameter preview model. Well, just a few days ago, they released the full 14 billion parameter model. And in case you haven't figured out by now, it is extremely impressive. And while the full model requires a beefy H200 to run with 141 gigs of VRAM, that's right, I couldn't even run on H100. There are versions of the models like the FP16 or the quantized versions that can actually run on your home GPU with as little as 24 and maybe even slightly less gigs of VRAM, and still allowing you to get amazing results. So today, I'm going to show you guys how to run Vace not only on one of these beefy H200 GPUs, but we'll also look at how to get it running on some friendlier UIs like Gradio, my own AI image and video generation platform KaijuGen, and of course we'll also look at ComfyUI, which is the version that you'll need to run it on your own local machine. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get a Gradio working with the quantized or watered down version of the model, so that one will be limited to just RunPod or my own platform. So with that, let's dive right in. Now, before we get started into actually running Vace, there's a couple of things that we need to understand about how the model works. Vace is supposed to be an all-in-one video creation and editing platform. As you can see in these examples, you can take an input video like this one and turn it into something that looks like this. Now, the process is not as simple as just feeding in a video like this and you get an output like this. Vace actually takes in what is called pre-processed video. Now, what is pre-processed video? Well, pre-processed video is taking this starting video and turning it into some kind of control input. That is either turning it into an OpenPose, a depth map, a Canny, and using that as the driving factor to then create new videos like this. On top of that, Vace can do other things like, for example, inpainting, where you can feed in a video with this mask and then let it replace it or remove the object that you've masked entirely. Or Vace can take a bunch of reference images and create an entirely new video incorporating those characters into it. And then you can mix and match all of those features to get a whole bunch of other things. The main thing here is that Vace is supposed to be intelligent enough to recognize what you're trying to do based on the inputs. So if you feed in a OpenPose video, it will understand that you want to transpose that action into whatever output it is, whether you're just typing in a text prompt or you're feeding in a reference image. It will do its best to figure that out. The downside is I've sometimes gotten mixed results and I haven't quite figured out how to force the model to get it to do what I want. I am working on putting out on KaijuGen better controls with the model, which seem to be possible, but that will take a little bit of time. So if you're interested in finding out when those features come out, please do consider joining me on Discord or following my newsletter, as updates to templates or KaijuGen are posted out over there. Now that we understand a little bit about what Vace expects as an input, we can start diving into setting up our very first example. So if we dive into KaijuGen and you want to use Vace, head on over here to Image, set your model to Video, and then you can scroll down and you'll see down here, Vace 14B. For this particular model, you're going to want to open up the advanced parameters, and you can see here a couple of things that I've already set up. So as you can see here, we've set up a source video, which is this OpenPose movement. And I'll show you guys a little bit later how you can create these inputs. But over here, you can see another type of input from the same source video where I've actually created a depth map. So we'll be trying that out as well. So you can see here, I've set the movement as my starting video. We're not applying a mask at this point, and I'm going to leave the seed the same, the size the same, and we're going to leave the sample solver as UniPC. Along with all of the other parameters, we're not going to touch them at this time. if I get the opportunity, I'll create a separate video where we dive deeper into these parameters and see how we can get the best results from Vace. Now, in this particular case, I'm feeding in this reference image over here, which is this one over here. And the prompt is going to be red-headed woman walking down medieval castle hallway. And you can see here that this is the result that I got. Now, admittedly, it did add on a hat to her, but if we load up here as well the source video, you can see here it did a pretty decent job of combining all the three. Now, admittedly, the OpenPose here that I use as the input video is not the best, as the hand kind of flickers out here. But for the most part, you can see how there is the walking movement, the hand is here, kind of running over the head. And if we look at our reference image, we've got the character here in this particular dress where you've got the slick here, the corset top, the sleeves, the red hair. And if we look at the background, you've got this whole cathedral looking vibe. The video does a really good job of turning all of this into physics, maintaining things, and just overall generating a really good movement. The walls are great. The only area I'd say it was a little bit weak is on the floor, where it seemed to change the tiling slightly. But overall, it's a great transposition. And after running it again, here's another version that we got. So once again, you can see it did change the character slightly. And you'll see a little bit later, I will have another version of this same video that shows a closer resemblance to the character, and that has to do with the settings, which is why tweaking and adjusting those settings and parameters can make a huge difference. If you are finding some issues with the identity of the character not passing over, I would suggest you try and change either the sample shift or the sample guide scale up or down a little bit. Now, if we go ahead and change our upload video to something else like the depth map over here, you'll find that the results begin to differ quite substantially. So let's go ahead and drop that in there. Put in the prompt, red-headed woman walking down castle hallway. You can see here that the results have altered quite a bit more drastically. And unfortunately, for the depth, I haven't been able to get the reference image to get applied properly. So you'll see here that yes, in all three situations, the character is a redhead. However, the facial identity has been lost quite a bit. And this is again where I was referring to, where you lose a little bit of control with the model. I still have to tweak further the parameters and see if I can bring back that identity. But so far, when I've used a depth map, it seems to only work with text to video. So you can see here that with the depth map, we've got these tables over here in the background as our character is walking. You know, she's playing with the herring. What's really great about this is you get a lot more detail when compared to the pose map. And we can see that reflected here in the way that these characters are walking. It's figured out that the shoes need to have a little bit more heel. There's a little bit more definition in the way that they're walking. You can see here the attempts of the hair. But in this particular case, because we've also got these tables in the background, you can see here that the tables have appeared. But this is another great example of passing on motion onto your newly generated video. Now, I do know that identity can be brought back because I did get it working on ComfyUI, which I'll show you later. But the quality leaves a lot to be desired. So if we remove the depth and just leave our reference image and generate our character walking down the hallway with absolutely no driver, let's see what we get. Now, for today's example, I do not have multiple source images set up quite yet. They'll be up by the time that this video launches, but I'll show you guys what happens with Vace when we incorporate multiple starting images on the next part of the video, which is when we'll look at the Gradio. And you can see here that after a few minutes of waiting, we were able to get the desired result, and we've got it over here. And for the most part, it followed the prompt really well. Red-headed woman walking down hallway. I didn't specify medieval or castle this time, just to show that it was able to actually grab the character identity. This does look like our character. Let's pull up the image over here on the right so that we can have a look. And boom, we've got her over here on the left. And we can see here from the image that it does indeed look like her. And once again, it did a decent job of transposing the outfit. It did give her a slight outfit change. As you can see here, the dress has kind of changed a little bit. The sleeves are gone. So a little bit of loss over there, but pretty good character transfer overall. Now, there's one more thing that can be done. And you'll see here the SRC mask function. And unfortunately, I don't have an example that I pre-prepared for you guys, so I'm just going to show you the one that this provides. For our upload video, we're going to grab this source video. And you can see here immediately that we've got a person on a horse and they're kind of galloping away, and you'll notice this big gray box covering the person. So again, this has been a pre-prepared video that is going to be uploaded. So we're going to grab that. And then over here on source mask, we need to also upload this video, which is exactly the same thing, except we've removed everything except for the grayed out area that we are going to paint out. Now, with this, it's enough to just type in something and it will swap out the image for whatever you're typing in the text, or you could type in something to remove the subject and it would inpaint that grayed out area as if the person was not there. However, we're going to keep our red-headed lady over here and we're just going to type in red-headed woman riding horse and go ahead and generate that. And what that will do is that will replace the space with our character. So these are some of the really powerful things that you can do with Vase. Okay, so it's done. And just so that you have an idea of what to expect, it takes about 6 to 8 minutes per generation to happen. I have it on KaijuGen running on an H100, slightly quantized. I am working on getting a H200 to run the model so that it takes a little bit less time to generate the videos, as you'll see a little bit later in the Gradio section. Now, as you can see here, the model has replaced the gray box with someone. Let's just have a look at the original video so that we got a reference point, right? So we've got the original video here, and then we've got the reference one here. And you see how most of it is the same. The mountains are the same, right? The horse is kind of over here, moves on over to the side. We've got the horse looking over here and then goes off with the mountains over there. And it's done a perfect job of replacing someone into that box. The issue is I don't think it did a great job of transposing our character. And it comes back down to what I was saying earlier, like with the depth map. There are certain cases where it doesn't pick up on the reference image. Now it's supposed to, and I'll show you guys the example from Vase where it does do exactly that. And that may have to do with the fact that my source image is maybe too busy. The Vase one has a blank background and maybe we need to do a background removal for certain types of reference transfer, right? And if we look here at the reference image that Vase uses and then the exact same video with this is a reference input, you can see here that it does a really good job of transferring over that character. But the key difference here is that the reference image has a white background. So further experimentation will be required on this particular feature. And that's pretty much it. That's how you get started using Vase over on my platform, KaijuGen. It's an image and video generation platform that I put together to help me consolidate and mix and match models all in one place. I will be adding in some models to help you pre-process the videos so that you can pre-process and generate all in one place, as well as adding in a little video editor so that you can generate multiple videos and put them all together in one place. Please do consider checking it out, as using KaijuGen does directly support this channel. It helps me make videos, it helps me work on different projects that I make available to you guys, whether it's the Gradio Workflows or templates, which I do not make money on, or the examples and templates that I share available for everyone. If you can or don't want to support me on Patreon, using KaijuGen, if you're going to be doing image or video generation anyway, is a great way to support the channel. And if you have any issues, any problems, just hit me up on Discord and I will respond within 24 to 48 hours. I'm also going to add in a support ticket system over here on KaijuGen as well to make it easy to report bugs and issues. That's using Vase over on KaijuGen. What if you want to roll up your own H200 and run Vase over on Gradio? Well, I've made it extremely easy. I'm going to drop a link for a template down below, and it's going to drop you over on a page like this. Make sure you select the H200. It's $4 an hour. It should theoretically work on the Pro 6000 or the HVL, but I've been getting issues with CUDA, especially since this is on the new Blackwell chips. It just doesn't work. So I've only been able to get it to work on the H200. So go ahead and select that. WanVace will be set over here, and then just deploy on demand. You don't need to do anything else. Once it's running, you'll see a pod over here called WanVace, and the current version, just like I showed you on KaijuGen, only will accept the pre-processed videos. I am working on a version of this that's going to have pre-processors built in, and like on KaijuGen, you'll be able to process and generate your videos all in one place. For now, go in here, click on connect, and you will get presented with the port that you need to click. Click on it and Gradio will open up for you. You'll see the user interface here. It's pretty straightforward. Just like on KaijuGen, you can put your source video over here. You can set your masked video over here, your prompt over here, and then go ahead and click generate down here. It works in exactly the same way. So depending on the input video that you put, it's going to decide different things that you can do. And that's pretty much it. It's super simple. As I mentioned earlier, this uses the full version of the model. I've been trying to get it to work with smaller or quantized versions of the model, and it's been getting me issues. If I can get it up and running, I will share news for that on Patreon, Discord, and so on. If I do also get it working locally, there will be a one-click installer available over on Patreon exclusively for Patreon supporters. But as usual, I will also make a video on how you can get that set up and installed on your own local computer for free as well. It'll just be the manual process. Okay, so now I'm going to show you guys how to do the ComfyUI installation. I'm going to show you guys how to get it up and running over on RunPod, but you can follow the exact same instructions on your own local machine. So like before, I have a template set up for ComfyUI. Just click the ComfyUI link down below and it will take you to a page that looks like this. For today, we're going to grab a 3090, which is a far cry from the H200 we were looking at earlier. Make sure you've got ComfyUI selected here. Now, if you are doing this on RunPod, there is one benefit to doing this over on RunPod than doing it locally. Head over here to Edit Template, and in the public environment variable, scroll all the way down and set Install WAN VACE to 1. What that will do is it will automatically download and place in all of the correct folders all the models you need, and it will also install a handful of additional custom nodes that are going to prove to be very helpful in getting this up and running. And that is VHS, or the Video Helper Suite, the KaijuGen Custom Node Suite. KaijuGen got a bunch of nodes, I can't remember the name, and the Control Net Auxiliary nodes. So if you don't have those installed on your own local ComfyUI, I suggest you go and do that now. If you are doing this at home, once this is set up, let's go through the folder structure and I'll show you what models you need to download where. Now, once you've done that, go and have a cup of coffee because it will take anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes for you to get set up, depending on the day and how fast the servers are running. If you want to know where you're at, you can click on the logs and see the state of the downloads. Once you see here successfully installed and your ComfyUI confirmation down here, you can go ahead and click connect over here, and there we go. Once you can see the 0008188, you'll know that you're good and ready to go. And you can see here that various custom nodes have already been pre-installed. Once you've got that, go ahead and click connect 8188 and ComfyUI will be loaded right away. Now, one of the cool things about ComfyUI is that it comes preloaded with everything you need to start running WAN. However, because we've got a couple of custom nodes, I have put together a handful of workflows to get you started. However, if you're following along on your own machine and you haven't installed those custom nodes, this is how you can get started with WAN. Come over here to video and you'll see a bunch of WAN workflows are already preloaded. There's the WAN VACE text to video. Go ahead and click that and you'll get this pop-up over here that will ask you whether you've got the models installed. Now, if you are on the RunPod, you don't need to do anything. You just close it. This is asking for the 1.3 billion parameter version of the models, the FP8 text encoder, which we don't need. So we're going to go ahead and click don't show this again and exit it. However, if you're following along at home on your own machine, go ahead and click download on the models that you want based on the GPU that you've got. If you've got a beefier GPU, like a 24 gig one, you can get the 14 billion parameter models and the FP16 version of the text encoder. If you're working with 12 or 16, you might want to opt for the 1.3 billion parameter models or stick to the 14 and try the FP8 encoder. If you click on download on any of these links, it will start downloading in your browser to your downloads folder. I will show you in just a moment where you need to put those files. So as you can see here, we've got the WAN text to video workflow and they've got it labeled out really easily for you. There's a load model section here and you can see here that they've got a separate section for 1.3 and 1.4. It's defaulting to 1.4. So you'll see here the unit name is set to the 14 billion one. If we come down here to the LoRa, we'll select it over here as well. And the text encoder is set to the FP16. If you want to use the 1.3 billion parameter model, all you need to do is click here and select a different one, and you'll be good to go. Even though these are here, don't bother with anything unless you've got 2 sets of models and you want to use them both. For now, just leave it and ignore it. You can do your prompting over here, your positive and negative prompt, and that feeds into this WanVace video node. Your positive and negative feeds in here, your VA feeds in here, which we're loading over here, and then all of that feeds out to a K sampler. The only thing that you need to note here is when you load the model, that first goes into the model sampling SD3 and then into the K sampler. And this WanVace to video has this trim latent, which comes out here, goes into trim video latent, and then that is fed into the VA decoder, right? And if you open up the trim video latent, it not only accepts trim latent, it affects the overall latent. What I think is happening here is it's doing something to the latent here, which trim seems to be the word, and then it's combining it with the latent from the K sampler into a single latent, which then goes to the VA decoder. So we see here the latent comes out, goes into the VA decoder, and then it goes to your save video nodes. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have versions of these which use the VHS suite, which I much prefer. I will include the link to those workflows down below. I also have a couple of advanced workflows, like I got one I'm working on, which is going to have all of the modes on one single workflow. That will be available exclusively to patrons. So we'll have a couple of workflows available for free for everyone, which will be the basic ones, and a couple of advanced ones exclusively for Patreon supporters. Text to video is pretty straightforward. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. The main component here, as I mentioned earlier, is this WanVace to video, which happens just before the K sampler. If we go back to browse templates, we can now see that there is a WanVace image to video. And this is where we start to take in the reference images and start to output a video from it. This works off of the same base as the text to video. So we've got our model loaders over here, our prompts over here, the sampling and decoding happening over here. All of that is the same so far. And then the video outputs are saved over here. So what's different? Well, we have our load reference image over here, the length now of the video, as long as it's divisible by 4. However, keep in mind, the longer the video, the more likely you are going to start running into issues. There's a couple of advanced features here, which we'll get into in just a moment. But right now, let's start with this load reference image, and that feeds into reference image over here on WanVace to video. And then also different from the previous workflow, we've got here the width and height set to 720, and those are fed in over here. Then like before, all of that feeds into the K sampler, and your output video is over here. Now, that's the first version of image to video. However, as you can see here, we also have first frame control. What's the difference? The reference image, as you've seen in the previous video, looks to take the object in the image or the person in the image and introduce them into the final output. In many cases, it will use that as a first frame to force the generation. However, in some cases, as you've seen before, like in the depth map, for example, it took aspects of the person and it created a completely new one. If we want to force it to use that image as a first frame, we would do that by enabling some of these parameters. So what's happening here? If we were to enable this first frame, you'll see here that it feeds it into this batch images node. And from here, that gets fed into control video. So by using the control video node over here in WanVace to video, we're forcing WAN to use this as the first frame. Now, alongside that, there is this batch mask and batch images. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of it is. I believe it needs to be used in conjunction with first frame control. And what it's doing is it's taking your width and height and creating a mask from it, right? We see here that the width and height are fed into this solid mask. This solid mask is fed into this convert mask to image. So we're turning the mask into an image. And then the image is fed in here into batch images 1. Then batch images 2 has the same thing. We've got a solid mask with the same height and width fed into this convert mask to image, and then fed into this repeating image batch. And then that's fed into batch images along with the other mask. And then the output of this is again converted into a mask. And that mask is sent over here to control mask. And then earlier where we had this solid mask getting turned into an image, getting this repeat image batch applied to it, and the output of that going to the other mask, it also gets bundled up with the frame that we're using, the first frame, and that is what gets fed into the control video. So both of these seem to be important with using the first frame. Unfortunately, I haven't had time to test it out. If you are interested in knowing more about this, please do leave a comment down in the comment section below, and I'll try and cover it into the VACE deep dive. Today, we're focusing on installation and basic usage. Okay, next, we've got WanVace control video. So once again, this is the default one that VACE has given us. And in this case, I'm actually going to upload my modified version so you guys can see what I'm doing differently. Like the base one, we've got all of the models over here, model loader, the text encoder, the sampling to decoding. However, over here, you can see I've swapped out the base model for the VHS one. And down here, I've added a bunch of control net nodes. I've also changed the control video uploader, where before you had a handful of nodes, now you've just got the load video from the VHS, and I'm using the KaijuGen nodes resizer over here to help bring down the size of the control video if it's too big for your GPU. So over here on the first row, everything is the same. What's different? Down here on the second row, you can set your load reference image. Like before, this is where the model is going to draw the reference character from. Over here on load control video, this is where we upload our video. Now, this ComfyUI workflow has the pre-processing component already included. So if you choose a video over here, right, let's grab this one, which is what the previous videos were based on, and upload it. We're going to feed the images or frames into the resize image where we are setting a maximum width and height. So what this will do is it will look at 864 and it will see which side is longer and then cap it out at that. So this video is not going to go out with the side longer than 864. And it also allows me to pull out the width, height, and the frames. Now, here from image, I'm feeding it into Canny, OpenPose, Pose, and Depth Anything. Each of these will produce a control net video. OpenPose Pose will produce the pose video I showed you guys earlier, which is this one over here, and Depth will produce this one over here. I've set up a relay node over here where you can feed in the one that you want to use. If you want to use Canny, you can just feed in Canny over here to the input and it'll swap it out. If you want to use OpenPose, you can feed that in instead, or you can use the depth map. And it will spit out a preview here of what the output looks like. Depending on which control net you choose, that will get fed in here into control video. Your reference image will go here, the width and height will be set over here, and you'll be good to go. And then if you come over here to the templates, you'll also see that there's one for outpainting and a first frame, last frame to video, right? So this is where you set the first frame, the last frame, and then it will generate the video in between. So what do you need to install locally on your computer to get this working? Well, as I showed you earlier, ComfyUI does a really good job of showing you the missing models and letting you download them. However, if you click on those download links, it will download in your browser to your download folder. You still got to know where to put those models. So if you go to your ComfyUI folder, and even though I'm showing this to you guys over on RunPod, if you want to access this on RunPod, come back to this window, click on connect, and then click on the 8888 HTTP service. That will open up a Jupyter window. Go over here to ComfyUI, and all of the folders here will be exactly the same as what you have on your local machine. Go to models, and in diffusion models, this is where you place your VACE model, the VACE 14 billion FP16. In text encoders, you put the UMT XXL FP16 model, and then over here in VAE, you put the VAE. And that's pretty much it. This has been a pretty comprehensive guide of how you can get started using VACE on different platforms. So depending on your need, I hope that there's a solution here that works for you. As I mentioned earlier, I am doing my best to get quantized versions of the GRadio up and running so that you guys can use it. But it takes a lot of time and effort to get that done. So please do consider supporting me on Patreon or making use of my AI image and video generator KaijuGen. I try and keep it up to date with the latest models. And in fact, I've just updated it with the latest Flux context model that's just come out. And I will be updating it with Kling 2.1. Anything that you want should be up there. And I would actually love to hear from you guys how I can make it better. Finally, if you want to stay up to date on my videos, click the like and subscribe button down below. And make sure you hit the bell icon, as that's the only way you'll get notified of new videos. Or do sign up for my newsletter down below. I am trying to be more regular with it and put out updates whenever there's anything newsworthy, when I've got some new videos out, or updates for templates and KaijuGen. Come and check us out over on Discord. The community is growing. I do try and answer questions over there, so if you've got any issues, please do come and ask us over there. But I also like to see what you guys are creating. I'm trying to encourage the community to share more of their creations. I think it's a great place for people to learn and talk about the techniques that are working well for them and otherwise. Thanks so much. I hope you guys found this video helpful. If you did, as I mentioned earlier, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.